Nice.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Athletic Definition. My name is Coach Ray Z, and today my guest is Richard, or do you prefer Rich? I'm not quite sure.
Either or, man. It's all good. I'm good
All
with
right.
both.
And your last name, I don't want to butcher it, so why don't you introduce your last name for us?
Yeah, my last name is Schenkuizen. It looks worse than it is, but yeah, it's good. It's a nice and long one.
Yes, well, my last name is pretty long too, and thank you so much for joining me. It was my fault. I forgot to send you that invite earlier, but we've been following each other for a little while now, and I've seen you step your game up like on your IG lives, and so I knew you would be just fine with the whole camera going live.
Oh,
For
absolutely, man.
yeah, I mean, for a lot of people, speaking is like the biggest fear. So uh, I'm glad you can make it. People will be popping in and out, and then they can listen in. Since you're new, if you do want to broadcast it, you'll see two lines on the very bottom, and you
Yeah,
can do a share with the world, and you can either post it on Twitter, Facebook, text it to someone, DM it, and then they can watch it live without downloading the app.
that is
So that
pretty cool. I honestly, I never heard of this app. I've been doing all my podcasts through Anchor, which is just audio. So this is cool. This is kind of like uh, Clubhouse combined with a podcast.
yes. Now this one is since you haven't heard of it, this one is co-founded by Mark Cuban and Fallon. So they're experts in the game, and I was blessed to become a creator. So it definitely helps me with the podcast, and they have a lot
Nice.
of cool features. Like for example, I put your Instagram link right there, so people can click on it. It's hyperlink and go straight to your Instagram. People will be coming in and out of the audience. Lisa Lampalili just joined Fireside, and right now she's being interviewed in another room. So a lot of people are over there. Growing up, I was a fan of her, so it's pretty cool to have her on here and actually
Yeah.
talk to her.
Nice.
And I always like to get started with when you were younger, did you like to work out? Was that big in your family, sports, or were you just kind of like a inactive kid and became active?
Oh yeah, no. I was the annoying athletic kid in gym class in grade 6, 7, where they're like, "Okay, let's run a lap," and then I'm just, and I go and try to run a personal best, right? So, um, yeah, I'm definitely always athletic. I played so many different sports. Played basketball. I've played football. I transitioned to ice hockey when I was older, like when I was 28. I've gotten into cycling recently. I've always been a runner, so that's something I've maintained throughout my whole life. I've always come back to running. Like anytime I get frustrated or I want to center myself, I go for a run. There's just something for me about just using my legs to move. So, uh, although I did have a section of my life where I did fall out of shape, but I was still semi-active. Like I still participated in sports. I just didn't take care of myself as well as I should, and that's now in the past again. So I feel like I've been on two fitness journeys separately so far.
Yeah, for me personally, there was a time where I I was still working out, but not fully committed. I just kind of going through the motions to stay in shape somewhat, and probably more drinking beer and partying than anything else at the time.
Yeah,
Uh,
that's me too.
now, did you get into the hockey? You live in Canada, right?
Yes, I did. I do live in Canada. Yeah.
So is that? I'm assuming it's pretty popular over there, or and available everywhere, or how is it over there?
Well, yes, it is. But the thing is, like for me, the reason I didn't play as a kid is because it's too expensive, and I'm the oldest of eight. So on top of the money, there's a time commitment, right? You've got to travel, you've got to go to practice. Sometimes it's 3, 4 days a week, plus weekends for games. So it's just at that time in my life, the money and the time commitment was just not available. So that's why I ended up playing football because I could ride my bike to the football field, jump off, throw my cleats on for my backpack, and I'm in, right? And the team always gave me a helmet and they gave you shoulder pads. So it was just an opportunity thing when I was younger, and you could still play outdoor hockey in the wintertime here. There's about 3 to 4 months where it's really cold. It's like -20 to -30 out.
Yeesh.
We actually have outdoor ice, and we do definitely play hockey there. But uh, it was just more like it was more a passion for me. At 28, I was just like, I want to play on a team. I just want to like, I don't want to just go on a rink or a pond and just fire the puck around. Like, I want to actually play the game and start to learn. So that's how I got into it later in life, and now I'm obsessed with hockey. I got a hockey game tonight, actually.
Oh, nice. Yeah, you told me you were pretty busy, and you mentioned golfing. I've golfed before. I'm not a big fan of it. Pretty much all we did was drink because you go on a little cart and you fill it full of beer. And
Yeah.
I'm like, I'm too active for it. It was fun, but it's just not for me. Are you a big golfer as well?
No, I'm like you. I have a set of clubs, but I'm not dedicated to it. Like, honestly, today was the first time I golfed this year. I like it. I like the fresh air, but I know I'm not really committed. I don't really put a lot of effort into my golf game. Um, my friend can crank it like 150 yards further than I can, and it's just like unless I dedicate myself to that sport, I'm not going to get better. So I'm just kind of like, man, I'm just out here having fun and try to hit it straight.
And you mentioned, playing hockey later on at that time, because especially like when you're 28 and around that age, sometimes you're in a relationship, and it could be even more difficult to do when you don't have that support. Have you always had that support when it comes to physical fitness, or on and off?
Yeah. Well, funny enough, I met my wife when we played hockey together, and that's how we
Oh,
met.
nice.
That's what kind of attracted me to her because she's actually a really good hockey player, really good skater. And like when we first got together, she was definitely a better skater than me, and I had a lot of room to grow. But truthfully, I've done that growing. I've closed the gap completely. But that's because I'm dedicated. That's because I've made that intention myself, right? To get better at hockey.
And since you seem to do a variety of sports, and you mentioned running, do you have a favorite sport or workout you like to do?
Oh, favorite. Man, that's a tough question. I would love to say hockey. Um, because it is fun. But man, like I loved football when I was a kid too. Like that's a lot of fun, man. To go play a game of football. Like I have some like really good memories. I even have some film from when I was younger playing football, and it's like I sometimes pop it on and I just watch. I'm like, oh, I don't know. There's something about being in a football game, right? Like your team. It's almost like you're an army together, right? Like you've got a mixture of big guys and small guys. Your team's got your back. Everybody on the other team wants to hurt you. It's just like I don't know. I like the team. I like team sports, um, and I'm really kind of driven by like in hockey specifically. I'm driven by being the hardest worker on the field or the hardest worker on the ice because like again, this is in hockey. I focused a lot on it, right, to try to get faster and not just get faster, but have a conditioning level where, like in the third period, I'm hardly tired, I'm hardly sweating, and everybody else, I can feel their energy kind of dipping, and mine stays, and I can just maintain it. And that's kind of what I pride myself on. Even in football, it was like I pride myself on being that guy. Like when everybody else is tired, I still have a couple more strides.
Yeah, I know what you mean. I love that myself. There used to be a show called Pro versus Joes, and I used to like to watch it because they weren't like they were like almost like maybe guys that didn't quite go pro, but they would still be like really good athletes, and they would bring in people. And one time they brought in Kurt Angle, which is from WWE, but he also did wrestling for the United States and won a gold medal or silver. No, I think gold. But everybody and was saying that his engine was the same from the first round to the second round to the third. It never dropped off. Some people start off really fast and then take a dive. Some people start off slow and pick up, but it was steady. And when I heard that, I'm like, I like that, because I could always see people on the field start to get tired, not start to run the full court, not start to do, what they need to do to, because of their cardio, their energy levels are just dropping.
Yeah.
So I can definitely relate to that. And then when did you, I mean, since you've always kind of been into it, when did you decide to like cross over and want to help people and coach?
Um, that was kind of something that took, I would say, like over a period of time, took about 10 years of just me, well, number one, learning and focusing on myself and trying to and improving my own life, but then just hearing the older people in my life complain about, oh, as soon as you hit 40, everything goes downhill, or oh, once you're 50, you can't recover from this, or oh, I love playing sports, but man, the next day I'm so tired. My body tells me I can't do it. I'm so sore. And I just honestly, I just got sick and tired of hearing that shit. And I'm like, listen, that's only that way because you choose that. And so that's what kind of molded my mission to 150 was like, all right, I've had enough of people complaining about being old. I'm going to hit the ground running. I'm 39 now. I'm not going to wait until I'm 60 to get in shape. I'm starting now so that by the time I'm 60, I can make all the 60-year-olds that I know today look like a bunch of chumps, right? Because I know it's possible. When you take care of your body, when you move and you have healthy habits your whole life, you'll never wake up one day out of shape. You just won't, and you won't wake up broken. Like my grandmother, she died in December. She was 84 years old. And it was just, it was hard to watch her because I watched her for 30 years decline and not
Mm.
do anything. And I'm like, and like, it's her life, but it's like, Nan, like, I can tell you the secret. You're going to have to get your ass off the couch and go do something. But you should have started 44 years ago, you know? So I'm just don't want to. I'm not willing to let go of that opportunity. I'm from this day forward for the rest of my life. I'm going to be in the best shape of my life every single year, and that's going to be my constant pursuit. And that's what's going to drive me to 150 years old.
Yeah, that's a great mentality to have. And I've definitely had people kind of tell me the same thing too. They don't realize my age, but they'll be like, yeah, when I was younger, I used to do this or I used to do that. And I'm like, I'm older than you. And they're like, like it's their mentality, the way they perceive it. It has a lot to do with it. But where did you get like 150 specifically? Because there's a lot of like tales of people back in the day, which I've looked into. Really kind of hard to actually find documentation of people living, but the stories that we used to live a long time ago, like past 150, they're out there. So I
Yeah,
find that fascinating. Why you're probably like the only person in fitness that I've heard so far that has that goal of going to like 100, 150, which I think is pretty cool.
thanks, man. I appreciate that. Yeah, and it's like how did I came up for 150? So number one, I wanted to set it so ridiculously high that everybody's eyebrows raised, right? And I think I've accomplished that, right? Because most people are like 150, like what are you talking about, man? And how I came to 150 or why I chose that was because I looked up the oldest person in Canada is 117 years old on record. They're not currently alive. And the oldest person that I could find on record in the world was a lady in France who was 123 years old. So I figured my math was okay. Well, if that's the oldest record right now, then I might as well go to 130. But then I'm like, nah, that's kind of setting the bar low. So I reset the bar to 150. So
Yeah, I found out about some guy from India who's a marathon runner, and they claim he's 120 years old, or he claims. But when you start looking into records, especially like back then, the requirements to get a birth certificate weren't really difficult, and so I guess it was easier to do some sort of like fraud and pass the birth certificate to someone else, and so they're not. They still think it's remarkable what he's doing at his age, but they don't believe he's 120.
right,
But still, anybody who's like older, to me, that's amazing. I ran LA Marathon. It'll be 15 years this year, and the first time I ran it, The last mile was dedicated to a doctor who I think started running like almost in his late 80s, and he ran it up until the day he died. And they dedicated the last mile to him. They put like banners and names, and I thought, oh, that's really cool. Like this guy's still like going at that age, and his whole message was basically telling people it's never too late to get in shape, because he started his journey later on and he ran the marathon till the day he died. I think he ran it like for like 4 years, and that
Awesome.
it's been 15 years later and I still think about that doctor. I may not know his name, but that little thing clicked in my head, and I'm like, I want to be that guy that is mobile and able to move around when I get older. I don't, a lot of friends tell me I feel young, but my body doesn't. Mentally they feel young, but their body is already falling apart.
Yeah. And see, I think like my argument to them would be that's your perspective. That's what you're believing right now for yourself. But like that doctor said, you can start getting in shape at any age. There's no age where you can't get in shape anymore, right? So um, I would say if those people, if they change their perspective, they'd be surprised what the body's capable of doing and what the body's capable of reversing. Um, Another thing that I personally put a lot of focus on is my meditation and my mindset. And Dr. Joe Dispenza, I don't know if you've heard of him, but
Yes.
I took one of his online courses, and I still have access to the course. So I go back and I'll watch like episodes like hour at a time just to kind of refresh my brain and constantly, because each time you listen to it, you kind of like hear something else that you didn't hear the first time. But one of the overall message that really comes across to me from him is the power of the mind. He has so many examples of people defying laws of physics, like people like cancer disappearing with no treatment, no chemo treatment. Now, I'm not saying that it's just like easy, but people have shown that humans, the human body, the human brain is capable of that. So I don't care how broken you are or how broken my body ever is. This is why I continue to pursue things, because even if I get injured, like I don't care how broken I am. I don't care if I can't walk for a week. I will recover. I know that. I know that of myself, and I truly believe that. And over and over again, it happens for me. So, and the same thing with health and longevity. Like I don't have any specific health issues that I need to be concerned with at this moment, but I do believe in the power of the brain, and that's where I believe that if I maintain this mindset and I continue to grow and develop, that it'll get easier and easier to live longer and longer. And I really think that that becomes my choice, and I'm kind of showing it, to the world by living through it.
Now I always try and do research on my guest or any subjects that they're like familiar with, and it's kind of hard to find people that have been living very very long. But I did come across one guy, and he was on Joe Rogan, and he was talking about that. I guess if you get that whatever 23andMe, that basically that where you can see your bloodline, your DNA, you submit it. That
Yeah, yeah.
there's like three genes, and if you have those genes, unless something were to happen like a car accident, murder, something like that, you have a really good chance of living long. And if you have two out of the three, then it's like not as good as the having all three, but it's pretty good. So that was pretty fascinating to me. I had never heard of that. That they can determine that with the genes now. That if you're likely to be able to live a long time.
Huh. Interesting. Very interesting.
Yeah, but I'm also a big fan of Joe Dispenza as well. And I believe in the mind as well. Ever since I was a little kid, I kind of got into magic, and then the magic led me into the mind. And I'm like, enough of this. I'm going too deep down in this wormhole. Let me get a. I'm into martial arts. Let me get a book on ninjas, and then the ninjas was all about the mind. And then I'm like, oh, let me get a different book, and then it all just kept dragging me back to the same thing: the power of the mind and what you can accomplish. And then after doing something that I thought I couldn't accomplish, like my first marathon, it just made me think more like, oh, now that I know I could do this, my brain was like, what else can you do? And
Nice.
it's just about learning how to sometimes do things when you don't want to. Today I didn't want to go for a run. I didn't at all. But once I got going, I felt great. But it's you got to learn the things that you can do to your mind. Like David Goggins, he always says, lie to your mind. Tell it, I'm tired. I know you're tired. We have to do 10 miles, but okay, we're just going to run 1 mile. That's it. You get out the door. Once you hit that 1 mile, you're going to be warm and no one's going to want to stop. So then you end up lying to your mind again. Oh, let's just go 1 more mile or 2 more miles. Next thing you know, you did your workout. But unless you lie to your mind in a positive way, telling it, let's get it out the door. Don't worry. I know you're tired. We're going to take it easy. And then let's just do one more. Let's just do one more. I had to do that today, and just learning those little techniques I think are very helpful, and sharing them with your clients because we all have those days. I think too many people think coaches are always wanting to work out and full of energy, which it's not always the case. At least not for me. How about for you?
Oh, no, there's definitely, I have those days too. Absolutely. Because I'm human. And, I have days where I push myself too hard and I'm like, I'm kicking myself the next day. I'm like, you wouldn't be injured if you didn't push yourself so hard yesterday. But I think that's where the magic is the discipline and the consistency to, even when you don't want to do it because that's what's going to separate you from the crowd, right? And I try to think in like terms of champions because I apply it to sports, right? I've always wanted to be the champion, no matter what sport it is. I want to be the champion, and the champions, they do that extra little bit when they don't want to do it. When everybody else is sleeping, they're working, they're getting that little bit in. So yeah, absolutely have those days, but I just I force myself to do them. I guess is I don't know if there's a better word for it, but I don't know if I've ever lied to myself like you did there. That seems like a pretty good strategy to just say, "Oh no, I'm just lie to yourself. Just be 1 mile."
Yeah.
Uh, I'm more of like a drill sergeant with myself, where I'll say in my head and be like somebody's yelling at me, like, "No, we said we're doing 5K. You're doing 5K." No matter what, whether you like it or not, get going. You know what I mean? Like that's how I talk to myself. I'm a little harder on myself in that regard, but I'm still human. I have those days, and those days I have to push myself just a little extra harder to get what needs to be done.
After watching The Last Dance with Michael Jordan, I realized I use one of his techniques too. I'll purposely take things that people said and not even offensively, but I'll turn it into like,
Yeah,
oh, like I was taking a course on running, and they're like, yeah, you really have to run at least 50 miles a week to be considered in shape to run a marathon. I'm like, you're saying I'm not in shape? And
yeah.
he wasn't saying that, but to me, I'm like, I've been using that for fuel for the last couple of weeks. I'm like, oh, he's saying this, he's saying that. So I heard Michael Jordan did that, or he would even invent things. Oh, this player said this, and it wasn't even true. It was just also he could just get hungry to keep, whatever you got to do to. For me, I think is like as long as you're not hurting anybody or yourself, whatever you got to do to get that motivation to be active that day. So how many times a week are you working out roughly?
Um, well, 6, I guess technically. But like today's a great example. Like I I end up doing a lot in a lot of days. Like so, I always start my morning with either a bike ride right now because it's summer, or I'll just run on the treadmill inside the house just because I mean running in the snow is not fun. It's really slippery and you can't run the same because you have to be worried about your footing, so you can't stride out the same way. Plus, it's all slippery. But yeah, so my typical day is I'll start the day with a bike ride, and I did that this morning. Then I come home and I'll work in my office. Then I make lunch for my kids. Then I go lift weights early afternoon, and then like golf's not normal, but today lift weights. 2 hours later, I'm golfing. Come home, I'm chatting with you, and in about an hour here, I'm leaving my house to go play hockey. So that's and coming into winter, that's going to be pretty typical for me. I'll probably play hockey 3 times a week. Um, I'll ride bike or run every day or 6 days a week, and I'll lift weights 6 days a week as well.
So is this hockey an actual team that you're playing right now, or you're in the league right now for hockey?
Correct. Yeah.
Oh, okay. So are you guys pretty good this year, or?
Yeah, we're decent. We're competitive. I think right now we're 1-2, and tonight's our fourth game. So
Oh,
if we
okay.
tonight will be 2-2.
And I thought I seen that you've been running or maybe training for a Spartan. Are you getting ready for a Spartan as well, or?
Yes. Now, the unfortunate thing, this didn't work out the way I had planned. Um, the morning, so it was. I actually missed the race, and because my vehicle broke down on the morning of the race, like 2 hours before the race, and the race was not in my city, so I had to. I had no choice. I had to drive for an hour and a half to get to the race, and so with 2 hours to the race and my vehicle not starting, I was kind of I was hooped. So
Oh,
it is what it is. It's disappointing, but the positive is my ticket is still valid. So they transferred my ticket to next year. So next year I can still do the race. It just now gives me a little more time to train for it, maybe a little more intentionally. But yeah, it's disappointing. I was really looking forward to that. I was really excited for that race, but I'm still going to do it.
no, that's good that you're still gonna do it. And it's kind of funny you mentioned that not the car breaking down, but I missed one marathon one time. Never spoken about it. It was like for me, I was like, I can't believe I ever slept. I can't believe I ever slept. I'm like,
Yeah.
I should be like, I'm behind now and this and that. And I know this girl right now who's trying to break the. She's going to be the fastest Latina to reach 100 marathons, the youngest. And I know the girl who holds a previous record, Nadia Ruiz. And this girl was going to break it, and then COVID happened, and like her dream was kind of ended. But then she got her vaccinations, and she started flying from state to state, doing back to back, and all this stuff. And she's by LA Marathon this November 7th. She'll be at 100. It'll be her 100th, and she was gonna go fly somewhere this weekend, and she overslept and missed her flight. So she was devastated, crying. And I'm like, I know you got this, but basically now she's gonna have to do back-to-back marathons because she overslept. And I'm like, you know what? I've overslept too, and I'm sure we're not the only ones. And I think it's time for me to be able to talk about it now. So then you bring this up, and I'm like, yeah, I've overslept. I'm so that's something people you want to do if you got some big event coming up. You want to set your alarms, maybe a backup alarm.
Yeah.
Definitely preparation for beforehand to avoid that. But I mean, you can't do nothing with a car unless you want to Uber it.
Yeah, and that would have been like $100, if not more, Uber. Like I don't even know what that would have been. Would have been expensive.
Oh yeah, then
So
sometimes it's not even worth it. Then I'm glad they
no,
gave you the opportunity to transfer it over though. That's good.
yeah, yeah, and honestly, their customer service is pretty outstanding. I really didn't have an issue. I sent them an email, said, "Hey, this is what happened." They're like, "Yeah, it's all good. Don't worry about it. We'll transfer you." So yeah, I really I don't have anything to complain about because I'm always trying to pick out the positives in life. And yeah, I missed the race, but the positive is I'm still going to do it. It's not like it's not a total loss. So I'll get over it. And what's life without a little adversity, right?
That's true. And do you have any other like competitions or anything else you're doing as well besides the hockey right now currently?
Um, no, just it was the Spartan race and hockey, which are the two big ones. And right now, I've been dealing with an issue with my right foot. It's like right there. It's almost healed, but it's not 100%. So my goal this winter is to just kind of really take care of that foot and get it healthy so that next spring I can get back to sprinting on the actual track in my spikes. Because right now, with my way my toes at, it's like it's just not smart to put all that pressure on that one foot in terms of sprinting. So I'm going to get back into that in springtime, back into getting onto the actual track.
Okay. And then also, you have a podcast. I heard a few episodes on it. It's pretty good. It's pretty funny. What made you decide to get into the whole podcasting? This is fairly new for me. You are episode 27. And
Nice.
yeah, I think from what I heard, most people don't get past 10 episodes. So 27, I'm feeling pretty good about it. But Also, it is a lot of work, but for me, this is a passion where like it may not be me to motivate someone. It may be you. It may be somebody else. And I don't care if I bring on 10 million other coaches. I'm not going to be everyone's cup of tea and vice versa. And my whole goal is just to get people moving. It doesn't really matter if it's with me or with someone else. And that's pretty much what I'm doing. But I do everything. I book my guests. I everything from beginning to end, the editing, the uploading. So there's no one helping, and it is a lot of work. I'm sure you've experienced that. Is it something you're going to keep doing? Do you enjoy it?
Yeah, absolutely, man. Like I feel like yeah, our missions are pretty closely aligned in terms of what we're trying to achieve in sharing our message with the world. Um, and yeah, absolutely. Like I'm going to keep going. I mean, for me, the podcast was just always something that was in my mind that I never took action on. And then finally this year, it was just like, what am I waiting for? Like, I need to take action on these ideas. And so, yeah, same thing. Like for me, it's passion. I just wanted the podcast because I like talking to people and communicating with people, and I think this is fun. And I want to live in a world where people have conversations, right? Like I feel like our world's dividing in a way where you know peaceful conversation is disappearing. So I want to try to bring that back, and I also want to talk about some controversial subjects. And by me running the podcast means I can kind of talk about whatever I want to talk about, right? So
Yeah, and you seem to be a natural. Where I brought this up a little bit. Did you ever have any fear? Because this is something people the fear of starting anything, whether it's a workout program or a podcast. There's a fear that the people need to get over. And speaking is like, I think one of the major, I think they say phobias in the world. It's like one of the top three, public speaking. So, you know, was that something you struggled with?
um, maybe a little bit. You know what I struggled with honestly was social media in general because I spent up until last year, I guess. Yeah, now it's September, so I'm actually this is my I've been 1 year on Facebook. The previous 38 years of my life, I went out of my way to avoid social media because I wanted to connect with people authentically. And so when I first got on social media, and there's a lot of people out there being themselves. It wasn't that I couldn't be myself, but it was just kind of like nerve wracking. Like, holy smokes, I'm about to like throw myself out there to not just people I know, but the whole world. So, I don't know who's going to see me, who's going to interact with me. So, yeah, there was a little bit of a nervousness, in the beginning for me to get over that hump on social media. But one of the things that helped me get over that was uh, just going live and just doing it. I mean, if you go back and you find some of my old lives weren't really all that great, but I just did it and just kept doing it and doing it and doing it until, now I feel like, yeah, maybe it is a little flows a bit better from me.
Yeah, that's what I've noticed for me. I mean, my first episode is night and day compared to now. Um, So much so now that I have three shows on here. I have one where me and my friend, we call it drunks, an emphasis on the run in the drunks. And
Yeah.
so we work out and then run whatever, and then we get a beer and we review it, and we drink on air, and we do it every 2 weeks. So this Monday we'll be reviewing Stone beer. So we talk working out and while drinking at the same time. And then, like you, I love football. When I was a little kid, I played football. I thought I was like 49ers, like players from the 49ers, and as I got older, I still have papers of playbooks that I drew up, me and my friends, and I created a league. I called it the Little NFL, and we would go around playing different cities and gangs and all this just craziness, just because I love football so much, and then I've been doing the
Nice.
whole fantasy for like over 20 years, so huge football fan as well. Are I, and I just checked the score. Jaguars are winning 14-0, which I predicted the Bengals would win because my other show on here is about football. So I call it the Football Examiner. And I just actually did it really quick before you hopped on. Uh,
That's
so
awesome. You are rocking on this platform on the fireside here.
Yeah, I mean, I'm really happy with this platform and the opportunity that they gave me. And then from here, I distribute it and I turn it into a podcast. So I'll be sure to let you know. But pretty much put it everywhere from iTunes to Amazon. The only one I'm still waiting for approval is Pandora. They take like 6 weeks, and I think it's been longer. But I am everywhere else, and once I get it going, I'll let you know. And then how can people get a hold of you? And I know you coach, but is there anything specifically you focus on?
Well, in terms of my coaching,
Yes.
yeah, I focus mostly on fat loss because the one message that I find is out in the media in the world is I hear weight loss, weight loss, weight loss. And so one of my micro goals in terms of my coaching is to change that narrative so people understand the difference between fat loss and weight loss and why weight loss is not as it's not important. I don't want to say it's not important, but fat loss is what you really want to do. Losing weight is not going to get you closer to your goals, right? Like losing weight, I could lose 10 pounds in the next 3 days if I was like in an MMA fight or a boxing fight, but I'd only be stripping myself of my hydration and lowering my water weight. I wouldn't actually be losing fat from my body, right? So fat loss, like it's where you're actually changing the composition of your body so that you feel better and can perform better, right? Not just losing weight. Because to me, losing a number on a scale is just it's like an empty goal. It's like, wow, so you lost 10 pounds, great. Now what? Now what are you gonna do? And like people who want to lose 40 pounds, well, what happens when you lose 40? Then you're gonna start losing 50, then you want to lose another 10 and then another 10, and like where does it stop, right? So I want people to get into a healthy frame of mind where they're not focused on their weight, because I myself, I've been the same weight and two different body compositions at the exact same weight. I've been 195 pounds and jacked, shredded, all looking like I'm in a magazine. And then I've also been 195 pounds and sloppy, slow, injured, and out of shape. It's the same weight, two completely different humans.
Yeah, that's very true. And I hate to be the party pooper to when people tell me, "Oh, I lost 5 pounds." I'm like, that's probably just water weight. Like
Yeah.
don't get so excited over 5 pounds. I'm like, you really probably have to lose 6 to lose one because the 5 is most likely water weight. And
Yeah.
they're like, "Oh, you're just being discouraging," but not trying to. It just also they need to realize that water weight, and if you did that as a boxer or an MMA fighter, it's not even healthy for you either. And
No, not at all.
so there are some people that will just be listening in. Do you have a website, or how can people reach you?
So you can reach me through my Instagram social media, which is rich.schenkhuizen. And I do have a type form application on my Instagram account. You can also catch me on Facebook in the same name, Coach Rich Schenkhuizen. And I actually do have a website, but truthfully, I started the website before I got my stuff together and created my coaching platform. So my website is wealthhealthlongevity.com. And on there, you'll find my mission to 150 and kind of just, it's really a website about me and my values as a person. And then I run my coaching platform um, through Warriors for Life, and I have my own app where I load everybody's workout programs and all their recipe books and meal plans. And I send them messages, and I've got mindset portal. So I've got like a whole setup inside of my app once they're in my program. But if somebody's interested and wants to just chat, yeah, just hit me up on Instagram or Facebook, or check out my website. There's links all over to contact me.
Oh, that's very cool. You got your own app. I know I looked into it. I'm like, oh, for what I wanted, they were like, oh, minimum it'll be like $50,000 to get started. I'm like, whoa, never mind. So I'll definitely have to link up with you on that later. Also, we mentioned your podcast, but we never gave out your name. What about for people who want to listen to your podcast? What is your podcast name?
Huh. My pod. So yeah, thanks for asking that question. My podcast. The name of my podcast is Talking Shit Rich. Talking Shit with Rich. And the reason I named it that is because that's kind of the premise of it. Is I just want to get on there and talk some shit about lots of things. Life, politics, health, and fitness. So one thing about my podcast is it's not specifically focused on fitness. It's I just want to talk about random topics that matter to all of us.
Yeah, I heard you talking about that and mentioning that. I'm like, that's very interesting because you call it talking shit, but you're not really like talking too much shit, but you're specifically trying to pick things, which is very interesting. Which I know you need a fireside, but if you kind of start seeing that concept, they want people to have conversations, but respectfully. How you were saying you don't want people not to talk to each other. Like you and me could disagree about something and work out, but it's not like, well, fuck you. And it's like, oh, well, we're going to agree to disagree, or why do you feel that? And just have that good conversation. And,
Yeah,
I didn't want to just stick to fitness. That's why I kind of started venturing off with other shows so I could just feel more comfortable about talking about other things. I'm still fairly new to this, so I'm developing my podcast character. Uh,
yeah,
yeah, but I know you got hockey coming up, but I just wanted to thank you so much for being here. And anyone who watches the replay later, you can also click on the link, and it'll take you to Rich's Instagram, and from there you can find more information on his bio. You can also look for his podcast, which is Talking Shit with Rich. Is that on Spotify? Because that's where I heard it, or do you have it on other platforms?
yeah. It's on Spotify, Anchor, and should be able to find it on Apple, like iTunes as well.
Okay, great. And is there anything else maybe I missed out that you want to, mention to the people listening in, or anything that I might have forgotten about?
No, I mean, hey, I just want to say thank you for having me on your show today. It was a pleasure, and I hope we can do this again, man. It was a great conversation. I don't know if that we necessarily missed anything, but I would definitely be open to having another one. It was
Oh yeah,
enjoyable.
for sure. When I first started this, I'm like, well, I don't want to take people's too much time. Half hour, but then I'm like, half hour. You don't even really get to know someone in half hour. Not even in an hour. Like, so now the people I brought on, if people listen to that show, they're like, they kind of get to know them. And then when I start bringing them back on, it's not like, oh yeah, I remember him or her. So it won't be the same type of conversation. But yeah, I definitely inviting everyone I've had back on, to show support for coming on as my guest. So definitely appreciate that, Rich, and I definitely would love to have you back on. Maybe we can have you on once your foot's better and you complete that Spartan, or
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
if your hockey team wins the championship.
Yeah, there could be a lot of moments to talk about for sure.
Yeah. So once again, I want to thank you so much for being here. What time is it in Canada? Did I keep you up late, or you're still gonna go play hockey, right?
Yeah, right now for me it's 7:52 p.m. So I gotta leave in about 20 minutes because my game starts at 9:30. So
Well, good luck. And once again, thank you so much for being here. And thank you, everyone, for listening in. You can tune in tomorrow. Tomorrow, I will have Dio Jerome. I've known him for quite a few years. By October 31st, he will have completed 500 marathons and ultra marathons. So
wow,
it will be very impressive to hear what he's done. He's also gone to many different Olympic Games. He's a teacher. So uh, hopefully he can inspire somebody. And Rich, hope to see you on Fireside now they have access. There's a little button that you can click on and request to be a creator. So if you're looking to do a show as well, that's something you can look into. Or if anyone listening in wants to actually get on the app and you have an ISO, feel free to send me a message. And you can find me on all my social media links with the same thing, coachrayz.com, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube. I made it easy, Coach Ray Z for everything.
Coach
So
Racy, yeah, nice.
yeah, thank you once again, Richard, for being here. And thank you everyone for listening in. Till tomorrow, 6 p.m. Pacific time zone. This has been Coach Ray and Athletic Definition. Everyone have a good night.
Beauty. Peace out. Thanks for having me on.